GCUC is a global co-working and conference community. We've had our fingers on the pulse of co-working since 2012, and we've connected thousands of operators, both in person and online. On the Juicy podcast, we talk with the people making it happen day in and day out. Let's get to it. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Juicy podcast. I have Anna Bernardo, who is the head of operations for Work.Life. And y'all, she is such a champ. It took us literally 15 emails to find a time when we could both get on the phone. So thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Lise. Thank you so much for having me. Really a pleasure.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you're going to be joining us in Manchester.
Amazing, Chester. Amazing to have you.
Okay, so first question, always the same question, but it's important. How are you? Not your work, not your family, you as a human. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very good. Thank you for asking that. I just came back from maternity leave 8 weeks ago.
Oh, congratulations. I didn't know that. Amazing.
Thank you so much. That's also probably why it was so difficult for us to find a time to meet today, because it's been a lot on my return.
Really? I'm going to run a business and have a newborn.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's definitely been a huge life shift, but I'm really grateful to had a full year off and now being back at work, and especially at a company that's been really supportive throughout. It's really nice to be back. And I think becoming a working mom has also helped me see what the other working parents are going through. And I think we don't talk enough about it. So I think for any working parents out there listening to us, like, well done, you're doing amazing. And I see you in a way that I've not seen you before. So thank you for hiding it really well,
That's why I never did it. I took one look at it and I was like, that looks really hard.
But I think that's probably where I'm right now, is kind of, reconnecting with the team and finding my rhythm, finding who I am after all this year of transformation, and also finding a way to balance work and life in this new chapter. And I think that's where I'm at the moment. But I'm good overall.
That's fantastic. So this next question is going to be really different from you. I bet from if I had asked you this a year ago and asked you this today, one of the things I found to be really critical in, I think, my success is my morning routine. Yeah. And so I'm curious, now that you have an infant, what does your morning routine look like?
Well, it's definitely changed a lot. It used to be a lot more quiet than it is now. I used to have that moment of like my coffee, my newspaper, and just kind of getting ready for the day. It's definitely totally changed now. And my son is really setting the pace. And when I'm lucky enough to wake up with him, because I must confess that I'm one of those lucky ones, and I'm always knocking wood on this, because he kind of sleeps well and he sometimes wakes up after me. But when I'm lucky enough to wake up with him, it's him. And I think those mornings are like a mix of chaos and like sometimes reading some picture book, sometimes cuddles, sometimes just like pure chaos. But I think whatever is on the menu, I really learned to embrace that, because I've tried a lot of meditation techniques and mindfulness and all of that. And I haven't found anything that is as grounding as actually being with him, because there is no way I can be thinking about anything else. Like when I'm with him, it's with him. And I think I've learned to take a lot from it and really finding super grounding. And yeah, I just start with that happiness boost, I would say. And when he's like waving from the door with my partner, and when I'm leaving the house and I'm just saying bye, it's amazing. And when I get on my bike, I'm just smiling and ready for the day. So it's definitely changed, but I would say it's changed for the best. So I'm happy about the new stuff.
That sounds amazing. And being present is definitely huge. And then what a great thing that you can hop on a bike to get to work. That's a fantastic meditation in itself, hopefully.
Yes. So it's a good start of the day.
I bet. Well, that sounds like rocketing into the day, but that's awesome. Okay, so tell us briefly about your journey into co-working and what your role is at Work.Life and what it looks like now.
Of course. So I think it's a fun fact. I don't know if you know about that, but before co-working and before Work.Life, I was actually a stem cell researcher, and that's my other life.
Wow.
Quite a pivot, I know, from cells to full humans. I think it's a big change, but I think it made sense then and it makes sense now. I love the research side, and I loved all the all the deep thinking that goes with it, all the hours behind the microscopes and all of that. But I really miss the human connection. I think science can be quite lonely at times. And I think I've always been driven by community. And I think that's really what drew me to co-working. And when I joined Work.Life 8.5 years ago, it's really, we were a team of 7 people. We had 2 spaces, and now we are nearly 70 people. We are opening our 14th location, and we are turning 10 this August. It's a big
Wow.
milestone. And at the same time, if I look back, how much has the industry changed during that time?
Mm,
You know that. It's insane.
mm-hmm,
We kind of came from a place where people barely knew what co-working meant. It was
mm-hmm.
a strange concept, right? And now it's become a key part of how really business think about culture, company, space, like flexibility. It's all like embedded in that. So it's insane to look at how the industry has changed. And I know it's not very common to stay in a company for so long, but for me, like the pace of change of this industry has really allowed me to see through these lens, like the evolution of our company, but also the industry. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I keep saying this to my founders, it's like I've been working in 5 different companies if I look.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I started as a membership manager running one of our spaces. And then I went through working as an area manager, and I'm now head of operations, really focusing on what I love the most, which is how we make sure that our spaces are running smoothly, how our teams are thriving, and really how we deliver on our brand promise, which is community, simplicity, and service. I think that's the focus of my job and something that I'm really passionate about.
Yeah, I found a common thread with companies that I think are successful, and that thread is knowing what your mission is and knowing that and keeping to that. I remember really well, I worked at Dell a really long time ago, and there was the Dell business model, and it was the thread through everything. Every presentation talked about what part of the Dell business model you were. And when Dell went away to that from that is really what, in my opinion, when they started to fail.
Yeah, I agree. And for us, it's really important to have that northern light, really, which is
Mm-hmm.
our mission is to make people work life happier. And that's been a thread throughout these 10 years for us as a company, for me, 8.5 years. And we've iterated some bits, but actually that's been the root of everything. And we've been just evolving it. And
I love that.
it's nice to be part of that.
So, of course, I creeped your LinkedIn and I see you're very focused on sustainability. And I am curious on what sparked your passion around sustainability.
Yeah, so it's a good question. I find sustainability is not a passion for me. It's really a
Mm,
necessity, and I think it's always been part of my personal life, really. And I think
mm,
it's felt natural to bring that to my work. But as I said, I think every person, every business really has a role to play.
mm-hmm,
And some people call it sustainability. Now we're also calling it regeneration. There are different ways to talk about it, but really what the conclusion is we can't really keep operating the way we've been, harming the environment, depleting resources, or really ignoring the wider impact of our decisions on how we run our business. So it's really important that it's part of how we set up our businesses. And I think from the beginning, I really tried to approach that in a way that felt inclusive for our team, and like how we could bring sustainability into our business model in a way that feels natural. And I think really making sure that everyone feels part of that change is really important. And I think that's how we drive the change we need. So I would say that what I'm passionate about. So I feel sustainability is a necessity.
mm-hmm,
What I'm really passionate about is how we bring people along the journey with us,
mm,
and
mm-hmm,
how we embed sustainability in a business like Work.Life. That's something that I'm really passionate about. There is a lot of learning, there is a lot of try and error, there is constant questioning, like, are we doing good enough? Are we
mm-hmm,
doing the right things? And I think it's been really energizing for me personally to be in a team that really gets it and that's
mm-hmm,
really got on board with that and has really joined the journey of like, let's figure it out. We don't know, we're learning, and we're going to use frameworks. This is always a jargon, a big word, but let's see what we can do to make sure that we are doing business in a better way. And I think that's the process that I'm passionate about, I would say. I think it's that
mm-hmm.
journey and how we bring people with us on that.
I love it because You're right. It shouldn't be a passion. It should be just part of what we all do to help the environment. And it's something we've been, for lack of better term, preaching from the pulpit of Juicy for probably 10 years. We've been talking about you need to be focused on sustainability. And if you can't get behind the passionate reasons for it, do it because the younger generations are going to demand it. Like if you don't have this figured out and they walk in and say, what are you doing in regards to regeneration? And you don't have a story to tell, they're just gonna go somewhere else that does.
Also, there is definitely that point, and we've seen people approaching us because they want to work for a business that cares and is doing the
Mhm,
work. But I think is also, again, it's an obligation for all of us to really think about
mhm,
what's the planet we want to be in the
mhm,
future. And when we talk about things like climate change are already happening and already impacting us, I think we do have a role to play as individuals, but also as businesses. And I think businesses have a really powerful role to play because they can impact so many other businesses. And in our case, we house like more than 7,000 members. That's a huge community that we
huge.
can influence. So it's good to be able to do our part as much as we can and to know that it will continue to evolve because sustainability is almost like a never ending job, right? And we are learning
Mhm.
as we go and as we do it. So, yeah, definitely always more to do.
Love it. And you mentioned your members. What role do your members play in your sustainability efforts? And is it collaborative? I know the answer to that, but I'm just gonna ask it anyway.
I would go further. I think it's co owned.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I think our members are working with us to drive the change, right? And I think they are part of it as much as our
Yeah.
team. I think our members care deeply about impact, and I think they keep us accountable. I think that's really important as well. I'm just thinking about an example where we launched our member sharing like data, like basically it's a process to share our carbon footprint data with our members.
Mhm.
We found a way to calculate what that represents to someone that uses an office versus someone that is using our hot desking area.
Mm.
And we share that annually. And, end of financial year just happened and we're already getting emails like, where is the new data?
No,
And
nice.
they keep us accountable and they want that transparency. And
Mhm.
it's so important that we are building that with them. And looking at Work.Life specifically, we currently house around 30 certified B Corps, which is quite a lot. 1 in 7 of our members say that they work for a purpose-led
Mm.
organization. That's quite a lot. And that also tells us a lot about what matters to them. And I think it shows up how engaged they are and how they show up for things that we run in the space, being, charity fundraising campaigns or recycling drives, behavior change projects. They are really, really part of that. And I think being surrounded by a community that is really mission driven, values led is really powerful because I think we can share the responsibility and share the momentum and really support each other. And I think that's really the power of community in action for me and something that I'm grateful to be part of.
Yeah, yeah. And then I'm curious, what's something that surprised you that worked really well from a sustainability standpoint? And what's something that you're like, this is going to be amazing and it didn't really work?
Oh my God, so many things. We've tried a few things, like, for example, in terms of like something that has been really powerful for us, like having a framework like B Corp. And,
Mhm.
when we're talking about sustainability, it can be quite abstract because, again, there are many ways of going about sustainability and every business is kind of choosing their own path. What I found really helpful for us is to have a B Corp framework where we've been able to track success and also to
Mhm.
track where we've not done as well. And it's given us like a clear pathway, like these are the things we
Mm.
do to get there. I think that's been very helpful for us also to communicate with our members because again, B Corp is quite a powerful brand these days. And I think explaining to our members like, okay, we are a B Corp, these are the things we are doing has been really helpful. In terms of things that have not worked, well, it's how you make sure that when you're embedding a change, it sticks. I think that's the main one. An example, we run a big recycling drive across our spaces a couple of years ago, and we reached like 70% recycling rate. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Is then how do we keep up with that without having to
Mhm.
increase put the attention on it. And, I just got the reports from last year and I was like, oh, we're a bit shy from our targets. And I'm like, how do we make sure that it's embedded and it's becoming a habit? It's sometimes the challenge, I think.
GCUK London is returning to Convene 22 Bishopsgate on Wednesday 8th of October, followed by our co-working tours on the 9th. Where you'll get backstage access to some of the top co-working spaces in this phenomenal city. Now, GCUK London will deliver unparalleled networking with global industry leaders, insider insights into emerging workspace trends, and strategic tools to position your business ahead of the market. It's also a lot of fun. Come for the talks, stay for the people, leave with your next move. Tickets launch in May at uk.juicy.co. See you there.
Yeah. And then the other one I'm really curious is how it shows up in your space design.
Yes.
How do you design sustainably?
It's a good question. So for us, sustainability is not just about the environment. It's of course a big part of that. And when we look at sustainability, if we want to look at the environmental sustainability side of things, then there are really two levers there. One is when we look at the build space. So when we look into how we fit out our spaces, for example, that's what we call the embodied carbon. So, all the glass partitions that we put up, they have a really heavy amount of carbon embodied. And when we look at designing, we need to understand what are the materials we are using, and can we look at those materials as a way to reduce our carbon footprint at that level. The interesting thing is there is not a lot of data yet. So we actually spoke with our fit out partners and can we understand more about the materials we are using in our spaces? They're like, yeah, we can. This is how far we can go, but we are still not really sure about the real content of carbon in your materials because it is not currently provided by our suppliers. So again, it's how do we start that conversation to get to that information? And we've done some work there, for example, the type of carpets we use that can already have an impact, and it's something that we could measure, but it's something that is still a challenge because of that. We don't really have a lot of data. And then it's
I would think the furniture industry is pretty not knows they need to be on top of this, but I can't imagine that they're making great leaps and bounds yet. And in addition to that, it's just hard to I get you want a beautiful space and all the chairs to match because I definitely wanted that when I designed the space. But, also with so many offices being vacant because people aren't going back to the traditional office, there is just an unbelievable amount of furniture heading into landfills. But also there's companies popping up that are helping get that furniture into people's hands, and even going to the point of, oh, you need 12 great chairs that all match. Yep, we've got that. And then they have to figure out, well, can you move it from France to England to get the 12 matching chairs? And then have you just negated all of the good work you were trying to do because now you're transporting? So it's just kind of fascinating to think about.
Yeah, it's a balance. And, there is also the situation where sometimes we upgrade our spaces and, that type of chair that no longer fits our design. That happens as well. And, the way we go about it, even last year, we donated a lot of furniture to a charity and they build their own office space out of all the things that we're not using anymore. So there is also partnerships we can do there. But, the fit out is really a part of our carbon footprint, but also then operationally, when we speak about, the energy we're using in our spaces, how we're designing our lighting systems, all of that is really important. And there are certain standards, industry standards, but they're probably still quite old school and not really updated to what technology can do these days. And especially in terms of smart building technologies is insane. It's giving us a lot of opportunity there. So for us, it's how do we continue to evolve our fit out and how we continue to make sure that is as sustainable as it can be.
Right, because it's not just what you're doing inside of your space, it's everything you bring into your space and everything you take out of your space. It's everything.
It's everything, yes. And, when we're looking at, our carbon footprint, it's, those scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, it's a lot. And for us, like every other business, scope 3 is massive. And so it's having to do and there is preceding and there is post our operation is massive. So we need to make sure that we are looking at it, reducing the impact as much as we can.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So a lot of people don't know how to get started and they're overwhelmed, right? And then I think there's just like, okay, well, we recycle and we're using, sustainable, flatware or something. So what's one piece of advice you would give another co-working operator who wants to be more sustainable, but is overwhelmed and was like, I don't even know where to start?
Yeah. So, I mean, start small. Even if you start with those things, it's a start. And I think that's really important. It doesn't have to be perfect. And, when I remember when I was preparing to write our first impact report and I read providers' impact reports, I was like, oh my God, like so shiny. They've done so much. And it was really daunting. I was like, we're never going to get there. It's like we are far away from it. And actually, was like, but that's fine. We need to start somewhere. And it's really important to, when we are sharing our work, we should share not just the wins, but also the struggles. We should make it a little bit more inclusive when we're talking about sustainability. Like this, we tried this, it didn't work. That's fine. And I think it's so important that we do that as a business because other businesses are going to learn from that. And again, this is all about collective change. And I think we can influence each other. So starting, even if it feels daunting, is like, okay, we've started. When we wrote our first sustainability strategy, when I look back at it, I'm like, oh my God, that's so like high level. It's like really not a lot of detail in there, but that was that was like the primordial of everything. And, if I look now where we are now, I'm like, this is amazing, and it's just started with that. And I think starting is the most important part. And then everything will
just
come.
do it.
Yeah, just do it. And you can choose a framework like B Corp or whatever framework that works for you and your business. I think it's again, I said before, it's helpful to have something that clarifies what your path is like, and that gives you a little bit more, orientation about like, okay, this is what I need to get to. But if you don't have to have one, it's an option. I think really important to bring people with you in the process, but really early. I think really don't make it something that sits somewhere in another department or build a department that didn't exist before. So, in our case, we never had a sustainability manager. We made sure that sustainability was part of everyone's jobs. And we are here in it together and we are we had a group of community champions from like basically people from every part of the business that were getting together to really work on these topics. And but they are as well, that we continue to do that. And we find it so powerful because everyone is part of that change. And I think that's also really important to bring everyone with you on the journey, not to just have that department sit somewhere else that doesn't really connect with the rest of what the business is doing.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so switching gears a little bit, you have a really big role. What is the hardest part of your job and what's the most rewarding?
Yeah. So my job is a constant jump between the day-to-day demands because operations are busy. There's a lot always going on and really balancing that with the long-term vision. I think that's probably the biggest challenge there. There is always something urgent that needs your attention. And then how do you kind of carve out the time to like step back and really think about your strategy for the people, for the future, and really understand like what's the long-term vision for what you're doing. I think it's balancing that. And the most rewarding, I mean, definitely just seeing the impact. And again, going back to my time as a scientist, I was writing these articles, like scientific articles that probably some people were reading, not everyone. And I really felt a lack of that, seeing the impact of my work. And I think this job gives me that fulfillment because I see the impact of my work every day, whether it's a team member growing and, to really explore their potential, whether it's a member saying that they love coming to work, or a sustainability project that we felt, oh my God, this is not going to get anywhere, but actually is growing and is something impactful. I think that's what keeps me going, is to see that impact. And, I love seeing our team and our members collaborate with each other. I think also being able to create a space where people can collaborate and can form that community, I think it's really, really meaningful to me.
Yeah, I think I've come to the conclusion that the reason there's so many great people in co-working and why so many people stay so long is because if you're drawn to co-working, you're drawn to people. and you're drawn to helping people and you're drawn to hosting people. And so, it's just, I often say like, there's no jackasses in co-working. There really aren't. Like people just care about people.
Yes.
And that's just attracts a really amazing group of humans.
I love that. And, probably there is a lot that has changed in our industry, but potentially that's one of the things that has been kept throughout. And it's beautiful to see that. I agree. And it's an industry that you kind of know everyone because it's not that big. And I agree with you. I have not had bad experience so far.
Yeah.
Like people I meet. Yes.
Yeah. And y'all, I've been on probably 1,000+ co-working tours, but I remember the one Anna did. And it was in London a couple years ago, which I love the co-working tours because I'm just a nerd and I want to see layout and I want to see how people are and where they're working and how they're working. And actually it was interesting because Anna brought up, I followed up with her afterwards because she sent a note after the tour and so few people do that. That was such a great touch. I love that you do that and keep doing it. Your tour stood out for the follow-up and a great tour.
Thank you, Liz. It was lovely to have you then.
Yeah, they're awesome. Okay, so now we're going to go to some quick fun. And that is, we're going to do a little speed round.
Yes.
So you cannot use London. What's your favorite city and why?
So I'm Portuguese, so Lisbon, because it's home, but I also lived in the Netherlands and Amsterdam is also both. Can I choose both?
Two of my favorites in Europe, for sure. Like probably top two as well. Love both of those cities.
Lisbon for the winter, Amsterdam for the summer. You know what I mean?
I have actually...
temperature.
I've only been to Amsterdam in the winter because it's always like co-working Europe stuff. So I need to get there in the summer for sure. Okay. What is your non-negotiable item when you travel?
A book. I always love to have a book with me. Yes.
Okay. And what's the best book you've read recently?
Oh my God. Good question. The most recent one. I'm reading a book called actually, I'm just finishing it and I love it. It's called Moral Ambition and it's actually by a Dutch author. He's an historian and he's talking about how it's important to think about our jobs as an opportunity to, again, going back to sustainability to make the changes that we need in the world we live now. So good book. It's been out since the beginning of this month. So I recommend for anyone that needs a book tip.
All right. And a new series that you're loving from any streaming company, any provider?
I don't watch series because I program short films for a film festival. So I watch a lot of short films.
Oh, okay. Favorite short film you're loving?
Film it's all more independent filmmakers. So I won't be able to share a lot from there. But I can say that my favorite short filmmaker that is a little bit more known, it's called Spike Jonze, and I recommend short films.
Nice. Yeah, I actually really I love short films, and I also love essays, like books of essays. Love.
Yes.
So great. Just take a little bite. And then last thing, is there a question I should have asked you, but I didn't, that you'd like to answer?
Oh my God, I don't know. What else?
I know, it's a really tough question.
No, I think your questions were quite good considering that we had 30 minutes. I think to the point. Potentially also more around what else in sustainability is there. You know, we talked about the environment, but there is a lot more when we think about our teams, when we think about our communities, our supply chain. So sustainability is quite broad and beyond environment. I think, you know, we covered that as well. So I wouldn't say there is a question that was missing for me.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much. I keep it to 30 minutes because I know our attention spans are just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So I think it's just easiest. And plus, people are listening to this at like 1.5 speed now. So like, whoo, you can get through this in no time. But thank you so much, Anna. It was great to see you again. And I really appreciate you making the time for the Juicy podcast with all you have going on in your busy, amazing life.
Thank you so much, Liz. Lovely to see you again. And hopefully I'll see you again soon.
Hopefully. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us for the Juicy podcast. Don't forget to like and follow for more. Thank you for tuning into the Juicy podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like and follow us for more juicy content. You can stay connected with us on social media by following us at GC Global. We're looking forward to having you join us next time for more insightful discussions. Until then, keep exploring the co-working world with the GC podcast. Ciao.